Hey listeners, I want to tell you about the 34th PASA Sustainable Agriculture Conference happening February 5th through 7th in Lancaster, PA. You can register at pasafarming.org/HRN. That's PASA farming.org/HRN. This conference draws a diverse group of rural and urban farmers, educators, advocates, entrepreneurs, community groups, artisans, researchers, policymakers, home cooks and gardeners, youth, and others for 3 days of learning on sustainable agriculture and food systems topics. I went last year and I had a blast and I learned so much. So don't miss more than 80 educational sessions and an expansive trade show. Again, you can learn more and register at pasafarming.org/HRN.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hey, Gringex Chicagoans. I'm Linda from Cena Secreto. If you are in the neighborhood, you should look up Cena Secreto on Instagram. See if I'm hosting any dinners or tastings upcoming. Can't wait to see ya. SEYNA Secreto. Secret with an O.
Hey, road trippers. I want to take a moment to talk about Heritage Radio Network, the home of Agave Road Trip. Heritage Radio Network is the only podcast network dedicated to food, beverages, and the culinary world. It's also a not-for-profit that educates emerging food storytellers. Heritage Radio brings listeners free podcasts on everything from the artistry of baking to the craft of brewing, the complexities of cheesemongering to the challenges of solving climate change. And they need your help. Help Heritage Radio Network thrive by going to heritageradionetwork.org/donate and making a gift to keep food radio free and accessible for everyone. I'm Lou Bank.
And I'm Linda Sullivan.
And this is Agave Road Trip.
The critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders understand agave.
Better understand.
Oh, shucks. Agave spirits and rural Mexico.
And today, Linda, we are going to revisit an episode that ran a couple of weeks ago, which is funny because normally, like, we record something and it shows up months later. But, like, this just landed, I want to say it was 2 weekends ago.
You
2 weeks ago.
fast-tracked it.
Fast-track this because I was listening to the episode called The Secret Origin of Tequila Oro.
Yes, I remember chatting about this.
I was listening to that episode, which is funny because I also normally don't listen to the episodes because.
Oh, you don't?
Oh, I really don't. So one, I only like to listen to podcasts that are hosted by elderly former celebrities or former celebrities.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I normally wouldn't listen to a podcast by like us.
Well, it's critically acclaimed and award-winning, though.
I don't care. But, the other piece of it is, like, when I do listen to podcasts, it's generally when I'm driving, and I can't drive and hear my voice because it's distracting. It makes me, like, I just want to pay attention to my voice, and then I would drive into oncoming traffic. Not your voice.
No, just you.
Just my voice.
You.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, why were you distracted? I was just being a little vain.
A little? Come on. Anyway, but I was listening to it because something struck me that I've forgotten a piece of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, okay, so what, and this is the point of this episode, is the point to that episode was the theory that Tequila Oro, gold tequila, the Cuervo Gold, right?
Yep.
That was perhaps, just a theory, was perhaps born from the practice of putting chunks of cooked agave hearts into the finished tequila or mezcal or IC or whatever you call it.
Right.
And that would then create, like through the syrup that's released, create this golden color and this Swedish, not Swedish like Swedes, but like
sweet-ish.
There you go. Thank you. That's much better pronunciation. Flavor out of it. And so I thought maybe that's where it was born.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I've not had any pushback to that theory outside of that.
You haven't.
I've not. It could be because nobody listens, including me, to our podcast.
I'm the only one listening to us.
Yeah. Yeah, Nielsen is a little troubled by that. My friend, Bill Nielsen. But so I was thinking about that circumstance, and a couple of things came to mind.
Like what?
Okay. If you go from, hey, we're making this tequila gold by putting a chunk of cooked agave in it, and that makes it golden and sweet and delicious, right? You go from there to, hey, we're going to use food coloring to make it look the same color.
Right.
Right? Like, why does that happen? Like, how does that happen? How do you get from point A to point B?
Point A starts not working anymore, or maybe, I don't know. You don't have enough?
I don't know either, but here's why I wanted to revisit it, because it suddenly reminded me of a story I heard about Rusty Mezcal. Now, are you familiar with the Rusty agave spirits from Mexico? But, I've only ever seen it in Oaxaca, but I'm sure it exists other places.
No, I'm not. I will say that Rusty Mezcal sounds like a pretty good luchador name, though.
Oh, that does sound like a great name. Or just like a best friend. I'm hanging out with Rusty this weekend. Was Rusty who? Rusty Mezcal.
Sounds like the guy that comes into town and everyone parties. Then he leaves or something. Rusty Mezcal. Me and my compadre, Rusty.
I like that.
No, I'm not familiar with Rusty Mezcal.
Well,
it doesn't
let me just
sound...
reach into the back of the mobile studio here.
Yeah, I love when this happens.
Right? So here's an example, but this is an example that's been literally sitting in my basement still for, easily 6 years. I picked this up on a trip to Yalalag, Oaxaca. Ooh. When I was traveling with my dear friend Jason Cox of Cinco Sentidos.
All right.
Back in 2018.
A few minutes ago.
Yeah. And he hated it. I loved it. I loved the fact that it was rusty, but I also just loved the flavor and the smell. But he hated the flavor and smell.
Really?
He didn't care about rusty. Yeah.
And he didn't care about rusty. Now, hold on. Yeah. I'm going to take issue with that.
Right.
Now, what part of the process is rusty? Where can we find
the guy
Rusty
making
Mezcal?
It was well into his 70s, if you know what I mean. No. So I'm sure that there are other permutations of this.
Okay.
The two that I've seen and the third that I heard about were all the same, though.
It's got to be in the still, right? It's something, maybe it's not stainless?
Well, hang on. Why are you saying? You're
I'm just
you're
so
100%
excited.
right, but tell me your theory. Like, I love that you're right, but tell me how you came to that.
Well, I'm just thinking of the materials used across the process. If it's going to be rusty, we're not talking about wood or clay or, right, these other texture-y materials. Yeah. It's got to be the stainless or it's got to be metal. But then I'm still wondering, how did it get that way, right? Was it, by mistake, potentially, like we're talking about the mezonte, like, oh, maybe, hey, we just tried that and look, this cool thing happened. Same as, the origin of aging spirits. Oh, whoop, we just aged this in this wooden barrel and look what happened. Different flavors, different color, cool.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that is how Rusty Mezcal entered the conversation.
So in the three circumstances that I am aware of, when you think about the distillation process where you're separating water from really alcohol from water, not water. You're separating alcohol from water. The alcohol is heated up above 170 to become a vapor. It floats up as a vapor, and then it hits that condenser.
That's what it's going to be.
The condenser is right. Well, the condenser is tin, and then it hits the tin, and it drips back down, right?
So then, do they make the choice to keep the I would think you would then have the option to replace it? ? If you're like, oh, this is getting rusty. We have not welcomed rusty here at the Palenque. Let's put a fresh one in and keep our, materials the same.
Well, that's an excellent point. So if you think about where we are right now in our mobile studio on the streets of Chicago, a place well known historically for dibs, right?
Totally.
Right? It's one of those, what's dibs?
Oh, dibs is, I have to sit down. Oh, I am. Good. I can't stand dibs, and I am a Chicagoan. Oh, gosh. To me, I'm not going to go on this soapbox, but it's like so, hyper individualized.
Yeah.
Like I know we've all got stuff
which
to
feels
do.
like the opposite of Chicago to me.
Right. It's not community centered.
Right.
It's like mine. I'm like, well, I don't know. Can't we just all, maybe I'll shovel your spot today. And then another time when I'm rushing out to work, you shovel yours.
Right.
Mine.
So in essence, you shovel the spot, you put out your beach
shittiest
towels.
lawn chairs.
That's what I meant, lawn chairs.
Right. Like think of those ones from the 80s where they're like tin frames with those plaid kind of like strips, whatever those were.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's garbage. I don't like the look of it either because there's just garbage all over the street. But the idea is everyone knows that this is not their chair. They may not know it's mine, right? But they know it's not theirs if you didn't put it there.
And they know that if you park there, something ugly is going to happen to your car.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
but my point is not to define dibs for people outside of Chicago, but rather to point out, like, we don't know the history of dibs because it's not the kind of thing anybody documents. Oh, this is important, and started documenting it.
Oh, that's very curious. Right. It's just a piece of like, I don't know, almost feels like urban legend. It's just like Chicago knowledge.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah, not urban legend because we know it exists.
It's real.
But But it's just, this is what we do. And nobody documented it because it's what we do. And so I think it's the same case. with the Rusty Mezcal. But here's what we do know, right? I know this anecdotally through Jason.
Okay.
Where he told me about one of the mescaleros that he sources from. He got this guy when he started to export the spirits from him. He upgraded his tools because he was making Rusty Mezcal.
But he didn't want to, the mezcalero?
Oh, no, he did.
Oh.
He did. Like, it was just what he did. But, Jason felt like, oh, no, I can't ship this up to the U.S. in this form. People won't understand it. And so this guy who had been serving so many of his neighbors with his beautiful agave spirits changed the process, changed the color, and suddenly his neighbors stopped buying from him because they didn't trust it was good anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I think is so fascinating. It's like, what are you used to?
Right.
And then, I've gotten so used to these duck eggs that I get from the Amish market. And my brother-in-law came to town and was staying with us, and he likes to have eggs in the morning. And he said, oh, I can't have those. And he bought chicken eggs, like, eggs that normal human beings get.
Yep.
Yeah. And those sat in our fridge after he left for months because the thought of eating, even though when I go out to eat, I know I'm having chicken eggs.
Right.
But there was something in my head that said, oh, no, I'm a duck egg guy. It just can't be a safe egg. It came out of a chicken. Right.
The familiarity sort of explains away something that a person who's not familiar with that might think is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I wonder, again, circling back to our episode about the
Tequila Oro.
Thank you.
And the
golden
caramelized,
tequila. Yeah.
Agave in there.
I wonder if it's something similar where people just didn't trust it unless it was that color. They got to the point where they just, like, the production levels were booming, and the tequila producers felt like, oh my, I can't afford to just be dropping chunks of what could become more tequila into the finished tequila.
Right.
I got to find a solution. And somebody shows up with a little tube of food coloring and says,
hey, that seems like the solution I was looking for.
Yeah.
I wonder, that also makes me think of other products that require familiarity. We've talked before about like tinned fish, which this is not an exact parallel, but if that's not something you eat on the regular, if it's not something that is served in bars on the regular, people might look at that and go, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But like you were describing being, I think European friends or somebody overseas, and you're like, oh, it's normal for them. They were just like, here, have one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so that's the familiarity equals in some of those scenarios comfort and trust, like you're saying with the neighbors of the mezcalero.
Did Did we discuss Cascaween in the Tequila Oro episode? I don't remember that.
I don't think so.
So Connie and I spent our Thanksgiving in Guadalajara, and we took a tasting trip to Cascaween. It was lovely, right? And Cascaween, if you're not familiar with Cascaween, shame on you. And it's widely regarded as like just one of the gems of the tequila world. Yes,
definitely.
Yeah. So when you go to their little tienda, their little store connected to the distillery to buy stuff, you'll see that they've got these like, I want to say it's like 4-liter plastic jugs full of golden tequila that they've made.
Is it food coloring?
Yeah. It's food color.
Oh.
Yeah. All of which is to say that you know, this leads into my theory about, okay, so a piece of this might be that you just have to keep serving the local population. If you want to serve your neighbors, if you want to be part of your local community, you have to really give your community what they want. And even a place like Cascaween that's, you know, additive free and beautiful and doing things in a more traditional way than any other tequila producer I know.
Which all of these are reasons that we love them.
Yeah.
That's why they're such an esteemed tequila.
And yet their neighbors love them because they can get the gold stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. Well, is there an education piece there? Like you could... I mean, this is something I think that sometimes takes generations.
Wait. Are you about to like suggest that we get the community around Cascaween to all join the additive free movement?
That is not. I know people that would suggest that. I am not one of them. I just wonder if you're going to change something that I have done my whole life.
Yeah.
You sort of have the burden of. The persuasive piece. You have to teach me why the way I've always done it, not is not right, but why the new way that you're doing it is also trustworthy and tastes good. And, like there's a bridge there that is missing, whether it's on the neighbor side or on the consumer, like American consumer side.
Oh, it's so interesting because that approach, in essence, is you saying to your neighbor, you're just not as insightful or bright as you think you are.
Oh, yikes. No.
No.
It's not. It's just like you don't know what you don't know. So you could say, hey, here's, a new way that this Mezcalero
What's wrong
is
with
doing
the old
it.
way?
Well, I don't know. That Mezcalero's the one that made that choice.
Oh, the mezcal. Oh, yeah. I got
right, like in the anecdote you're saying from Jason's producer, that Mezcalero gave the green light to replace his rusty condenser plate.
Yeah, though my understanding is he now has one still that he runs with the rust.
And another
in order
without.
to serve, a couple without, but then like one very specifically for local consumption.
Okay, well, to me, then that's just you have two different audiences there.
Oh yeah,
There's I don't think there's anything that needs to be fixed in that scenario. But as you know, I'm always gonna weasel towards, is there an education opportunity? So here I am weaseling.
You education weasel, you.
Ooh, that's great. New business cards.
Education weasel and Rusty Mezcal. They sound like the new Batman and Robin of the booze world. Yeah, so I'm going to call this good, and I'm not going to catch you later. I'm going to catch you right now in a copita full of Rusty Mezcal.
I will catch you there. See you soon, Rusty.
Hasta pronto. You've been listening to Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. We're blessed with sound engineering by Roy Sierra and a theme song performed by Gabriel Oliveira and Marco Ricos. Sign up to become a road tripper and listen to more episodes at agaveroadtrip.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know. And if you hated it, well, I'm sure you'll let us know that too. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. Agave Road Trip is powered by Simplecast. Thank you for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. To subscribe to the Heritage Radio newsletter, enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with Heritage Radio Network on Instagram and Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can also find Heritage Radio Network at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization using the power of education
educational storytelling about food to build a more equitable, resilient food system. Heritage Radio Network couldn't do that without support from listeners like you. Become a part of the world's most innovative community today. Subscribe to the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join the Heritage Radio Network family by becoming a member. To become a member of the Heritage Radio Network, click on the beating heart of our homepage. Heritage Radio Network can become addictive. Programming you hear on Heritage Radio Network might lead you to eat, drink, and listen to more programming on Heritage Radio Network. If you drink, please do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly, drive responsibly, eat responsibly too, and listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly. To listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly, wear protective earbuds. While wearing protective earbuds, do not drive, do not walk either. Sit in a comfortable chair. If that comfortable chair has a hard seat, please remember to stretch every 30 minutes. If you stretch every 30 minutes, please stay within your defined stressing capacity. And consult a doctor who specializes in stretching. If you don't have a doctor, maybe Dr. Ryan Acock, the Cocktail MD, can help you out. Thanks for listening.
Agave Road Trip out.